Welcome back. This is our session number 6 on our paper art collage dolls for our art journals. And as promised in the last video, I did a layout and wanted to show you how I used it on an art journal page, used the paper doll that I created, and then next I'm going to show you real quickly how to do another background, or how I did another layout using another one of my paper dolls, just to give you some more ideas. Here's how I used my cute bee doll on a page. I love the bouncy spring and the movable parts, and she's just too cute. So I did a layout that says, "What's all the buzz about?" And then, "Have you ever seen a bee twerk?" And this is a flap that closes. I'm going to decorate this with something else, but it opens up to "Let's save the bees," and then a bunch of bee facts. And one of the facts is, bees do a waggle dance when they find the perfect nectar. They take it back to the hive and they do their dance to notify the other bees of the find. So bees twerk. I had to put that on my page. I just thought that was just way too cute. So here is my layout. I added some more of the same stamped bees. The flowers are all just magazine images that are collaged. And one thing I need to tell you now, when you glue your paper doll, your art doll, down to your page, I attached it right behind her head, and I attached it just at the corners of each of her hips. That's the only place that it's glued. So that way it doesn't impede the arm from moving, or the legs from moving, or this arm from moving. So you want to be sure when you glue it down, and I wanted the wings behind to not be glued flat so they'd stay looking three-dimensional on the page. So when you attach it, just be sure that you're not putting glue like on this back shoulder, and then you wouldn't be able to move that arm that you've made movable. So think about that when you're gluing it down to your page. I glued it just like I said, right here at the head, and just 2 spots, and it holds it perfectly tight, and this part doesn't need to be glued down. It's just fine. And then all my movable articulated parts move. When I close my flap and my page, my little spring bee will be just fine inside. So it'll still close nice and flat. And then when I open it to view it, my little bee pops out. So looking for ways to use them in an art journal. Here's my paper doll, and I'm going to add her to this art journal page, this background that I've created. And it's a pretty simplistic background, but I'm going to add more to it. This cute chicken was on a napkin, a decorative napkin, so I used my Mod Podge to apply it down to a piece of cardstock. That was a kind of a thick piece of cardstock. It doesn't need to be as heavy as the cardboard that I used to create my dolls with movable parts, because they need to be very stiff in order to keep their shape and be movable. But I want to put this in here because I'm going to make this girl have a pet chicken. So I Mod Podged it down to the cardstock and let it dry, and now, just like I do for creating the paper dolls, I'm going to trim this out and add an element for putting it onto this background. So I've decided I'm going to move this charm from this hand to this hand. It is on a jump ring and the charm is on a little chain. So I'm going to use my paper piercer, and I'm going to poke a hole in this hand, open this jump ring, and just move it over to this hand. In this hand, I'm going to use some embroidery floss, and I'm going to put it on a needle and thread and feed it through and make a leash and collar so that this is her pet chicken. When poking a hole, it's easy to use an old catalog or magazine because it's nice and thick. You can lay that down and then poke through your cardboard with your paper piercer to make your hole in the cardboard. So here's what it looks like with her charm switched over to the other hand, and now this hand already has a hole in it for putting through some embroidery floss. So I'm putting a piece of tape on the embroidery floss and I'm putting it on the back of the chicken, kind of anchoring that embroidery floss a little low on the neck so that it stays low when I tie it. Otherwise it would ride up into the skinnier part. And then I'm going to just tie a little bow. And the whole premise of doing these kind of things is kind of just, you have to think outside the box of how can I decorate these to make them look fun and interactive and interesting. It's just a different take on art journaling, that your pages are just a little bit more decorated than just flat paint on a page. And I think this is just super, super cute. So there's my chicken, and he's got a ribbon around his neck, or string around his neck. And now I'm going to take my art glitter glue and I'm going to just put a dot of art glitter glue right at the base of that bow, because then when it dries it won't come undone. It's going to be anchored really nicely with some glue. And then on this side I'm going to put a needle onto this end of the embroidery floss, and I'm going to pull it through the circle, or the little dot that's in her hand. And I'm going to go from the front to the back. That way it looks like the hand is holding the string, you know, like it's a leash. And then I can tie a knot in the back that will just anchor that in the back. And so then what you have left is this. You'll have the girl with a leash walking her chicken. And I've put them aside, and now I'm going to go ahead and do my background. Once you make your paper dolls, the next thing you want to do is to have your art journal background. In this particular one, I did some sunflowers with acrylic paints and paint pens. And so I'm going to add my paper doll to this little art journal background scene. And I'm going to add my chicken right here on this grass patch and my girl right here. And what I'm going to do is to take my art glitter glue, and you want to apply your glue to everywhere except on your doll, except for where the parts move. So I want to glue it just down to this elbow here in her head, but leaving those parts loose because then they're still free moving on the page. So I'm going to apply my glue not past those little joints. And then I'm going to press her into place. And you can put heavy things on it to weight it down. I also like to use clamps, and these just are clamps from the dollar store where I can clamp my image in place until the glue sets up for just a few minutes. But see how the arms are still movable on my page. And then I'm going to glue my little chicken in place. And then for things like these little ties, I like to put some glue down and lay that embroidery floss into place so it has movement and character, but it stays put. And here's how the art journal page came out with my paper doll with movable arms. She's got a charm hanging, and then she's got her string leash that she's holding and walking her chicken. And the saying is, it was such a splendid day, Justine decided to take her pet chicken Gertrude for a stroll in the sunflower patch. So I painted the sunflowers and did a background and made my art journal page first and added my paper doll to it, and it just makes a really fun and funky page with my girl walking her chicken. So there's an idea for how to use them on an art journal page. I hope you're enjoying this series so far. So these are a few examples, and next I will make another type of articulated doll. Stay tuned, there's more fun to come. And feel free to join the Facebook group if you're making these paper dolls and putting them on your art journal pages. Show us what you make. We love to inspire each other in our group of Twisted Art Designs arting friends. So welcome aboard. If you'd like to share your work, then join the Facebook group. And I'll have a link below for the playlist for all the videos in this series if you want to start from the very beginning. So thanks for stopping by, and go make some art. Art soothes the heart.